Hi there and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to download a robot character from Mixamo.com. We do a little bit of cleanup in Blender, re-rig the character and export it to Touchdesigner for hooking up the Kinect system to the model. First, we'd like to thank you for all the nice comments and likes for our last tutorial where I've showed how to rig an organic mesh in Blender and export it to Touchdesigner. This gives us a lot of positive energy for keeping up the pace and provide you with lots of knowledge and fun tools. We believe that knowledge is not worth anything if we just keep it to ourselves. So in the last tutorial we looked at an organic mesh and how to set up the rig. In this tutorial we're going to look at a robot character where especially the rigging involves a different process. The major reason for this is that a robot doesn't have a skin that needs to deform, and especially around the joints like the hips and the elbows and the knees. So we have to approach it slightly different. We'll start with importing the model in Blender. We do some cleanup and re-rig the character. Then we'll import the model in Touchdesigner and see if we need some further adjustments. The part where I explain how to isolate the KinectChop channels and setting up a record chop will be skipped. I'll put a link in the description to our last tutorial where I've explained these steps in depth. So let's get started. If you go to Mixamo.com, you need a subscription to Adobe. I believe it's free. I'm not exactly sure, but this is a collection of all kinds of characters you can download. You can even download the animation sequences and hook that up to your own character. But in this tutorial we're only going to look at a robot character. So we're going to pick this female robot model, download it, and then I'll see you in Blender. So we're in Blender. I'm going to import the Mixamo model we've just downloaded. Go to File, Import FBX. I've called it Female. Import FBX. Okay. First of all, we're going to delete the armature. Select it, press X and delete. It starts to blow up a little. Press A to select all, press S to scale it down. You can press the point key to reset your view to the mesh itself. Press R and X to rotate around the X-axis. Press 90 and enter. Okay. You've probably noticed that this model exists out of two different parts, the more fleshy parts and a bunch of spheres. These spheres are actually very useful for positioning the bones at the exact rotation point. So we're going to make a lot of use of that. So first of all we need to join these two parts together. So you select both and press Ctrl J to join. So now they're just one object. Let's check if there are any materials attached. Yes, there are. Just press the minus and the minus again. So now we've got a clean mesh with no shading or material. Also very important to check the data tab for any vertex groups. There are a lot of them because there was an armature attached. So they've probably made a lot of vertex group to connect these vertices to the bones. But we are going to do it manually, so we're going to delete all of them by pressing the drop down icon and delete all groups. Okay, so now we're actually going to start rigging. Select your mesh, Ctrl A, apply rotation and scale. I'm going to front view, Shift A, add a single bone armature, single bone, G to move it, Z to isolate. I'm going to switch on X-ray. So now we'll start to line up the bones to the mesh by using this 3D cursor. We'll do that by selecting the mesh first, go into edit mode, press A to deselect, and if you hover over one of these vertices and you press L, it's going to select all the vertices that are linked to this vertex where I've hovered over with my mouse. So if you press Z, you see that we've selected this entire sphere. What we're going to do to line this point, the beginning rotation point of this bone, to the center of this sphere. We've selected the sphere, we do Shift S and select cursor to select it. So now the 3D cursor is at the exact middle point of this sphere. And what we'll do now is that we're going to object mode and select armature and go into edit mode. Press G and Z, somewhere around here. If you press 3 on the numpad, you go into side view, you can line it up much better. So this will be fine. We'll do the exact same thing for the tip of this bone. I'm going to name it first. This one was the lower back. Okay. So again, object mode, select the mesh, edit mode. Make sure you've deselected everything by pressing A, hover over the sphere, press L to select the sphere, Shift S, cursor to select it, out of object mode, select armature, edit mode, select the tip, Shift S and press selection to cursor. So you see it jumped to the 3D cursor, which was in the exact center of this sphere. So I'm going to start with the pelvis, select the beginning of this bone, E to extrude, select the mesh again, edit mode, deselect, select this one, Shift S, cursor to selected. Armature again, tip, Shift S, selection to cursor. So nicely lined up. Select this one. This one was the pelvis. Pelvis underscore R. Extrude it somewhere around here. Doesn't have to be very precise because we're going to do the exact same process for the knee. Select it, Shift S, cursor to select it, out of object mode, into edit mode. Select the tip, Shift S, selection to cursor. I'll call this one femur R. Okay. Extrude again. Oh, I've accidentally selected that one as well. Just undo, extrude into edit mode. Press L, Shift S, cursor to selected, out of object, into edit, Shift S, selection to cursor. So, and the foot, going to top view by pressing 7 on the numpad. Extrude somewhere around here. Doesn't need to be that precise. This one was the foot underscore R. This one the shin underscore R. Go into side view, G and Z. That will do it. So we have the foot, shin, the femur, and the pelvis. I'm going to show you a neat trick to mirror this to the opposite. Press T if you've it in your option menu. Go to options, select axis mirror, X-axis mirror, select your right leg, press Shift D to duplicate, press X to set it aside, press W and select flip names. So you see Blender has made an L instead of the R, but you have to delete all these numbers. I'll show you why in a minute. And this one. So if we select this leg again, press G, you see it just jumped right into the exact same position as the left one. Deselect this one because we won't be needing any mirroring for this part. Okay, so this is all named to the left of the lower back. Select this one. Extrude it. Has to be somewhere over here. We can line this one up with a shoulder sphere joint. So select the mesh again, edit mode, deselect everything, press L, Shift S, cursor to selected. Out of edit mode, select armature again, into edit mode, check it from the side, select the tip, press G, place it over here. Okay, name this one upper back. Now the clavicle, extrude, Shift S, selection to cursor, clef R, make sure this one is parented to the upper back, this one to the lower back, and these three, just as with the organic mesh, are separate. Okay, select the tip of the upper back again, out of edit mode and into edit mode from the mesh, select A, select L, Shift S. Well, actually I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the leg, so mirroring will make it a lot easier. So I'm going to select this one, Shift S, cursor to select it, out of object mode. It's a bit of annoying to constantly jumping around in edit and object. I believe they have changed that in Blender 2.8, so you can edit different objects at the same time. So they've mentioned the release date, I believe it was July. And this was the humerus R. Yep. Select the mesh again. L, Shift S, cursor to select it. Armature. Extrude. Shift S. Selection cursor. What's the forearm? R. Yep. And for this one, I'll go into top view, extrude, somewhere around here will do the trick. And this one is the right hand. Okay. Select the entire arm, switch on X-axis, Shift D to duplicate, set it over here, press W, flip names, delete this number, select this arm again, press G, and it jumped right into position. Okay, select the tip of the upper back again, into edit mode of the mesh, press L at the neck, Shift S, cursor to select it, armature again, extrude, Shift S, selection to cursor. Name this the neck. For the head, Just do it by hand. Press E. Oh. Wait, I have to switch off this X axis. 3 non-numpad extrude. This will do the trick. So, nicely lined up mesh. You've noticed, if you've watched my last tutorial, that I first imported the mesh into Touchdesigner and hook up all the channels from the KinectChop, and noticed that there were some weird, nasty rotations, especially around the hips and the shoulders. It has to do with the bones which are rotated in some kind of position, and if you leave it that way and you skin the mesh to the bones, it gets messed up somehow. So what you need to do is, first of all, just put everything to 0. And this works for this robot character especially very well into T-pose mode. Because everything is not in an extremely difficult angle. So we'll just put everything into 0. Okay. And before we're going to parent the armature to the mesh, after some trial and error, I managed to extract the precise rotations that is needed for exporting it to Touchdesigner. And for the head, we can leave it at 0. For the neck, oh, I forgot the neck, also 0. For the right clavicle, you need to roll it to -80. And the left one to +80. You can leave this one at 0, this one as well. The right forearm needs to be -90. And the right hand -90 as well. This one needs to be +90. And the left hand +90 as well. For the pelvis bone, the right side to 70 and the left side -270. The left femur -90 of the right femur. The right shin -90. Yep. Left foot -90. And the right, or the left, sorry, it's always a bit messed up to see or to think in some kind of mirror way. The left one needed to be +90. Left shin also +90. And the left foot +90 as well. Okay. Into object mode, select the mesh, select the armature. Ctrl P, and we're going to select with empty groups because we're going to attach the vertices manually to the bones. Okay, select the mesh. We go into the data tab and you see that Blender has created these empty vertex groups named after the bones, but when we go into weight paint, you see there isn't any weight painting because blue is empty. Nothing gets deformed with the bones. So you see I have two necks. Let's see what happened. It was probably something that I don't have two necks, it's just the head. To make it a clean process, I'm going to do the parenting again. So what I'll do is I'll select the mesh, the armature, and press Alt P, clear parent. I just want to do the steps in a clean way, so that's why I unparented it, because I don't think if it really matters, but it's just for my own sake. So okay, we've named the head. It's 0. Select the mesh, select the armature, Ctrl P, and select with empty groups. Select the mesh. You can delete this one. Okay. So in order to attach the bones to the vertex groups, we will select the mesh, go into edit mode, deselect everything, and we're going to select the vertices manually and assign them by pressing assign to the group where it needs to be. So just like with the spheres, hover over with your cursor, press L. L again, L again, L again. So this is the right foot. Select the right foot and press assign. And what I usually do is I then press H to hide it, so I know I've already assigned that part of the body, so the unassigned parts will stay over. L, 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 L. And this one was the left foot. Where is it? Yep. Assign, press H. For the right shin, press L, L. Right shin, assign, press H. L, L. Left shin, assign, press H. Right femur, L, L. The right femur, yep. Assign H. L, L. Left femur. Assign we're not going to assign the pelvises. I'll show you in a minute why. Because if we look at our Mixamo model, you see that around the pelvis there isn't actually anything deforming, it's only rotating, so the entire lower back is rotating and moving, but there isn't actually anything in between. It's just the femur and the lower back, so we'll just skip the pelvis so select this one and this one. And this one is going to be the lower back. Assign, press H, L, L. And this one for the upper back. Assign, press H, L, L. Right humerus. Assign H, L, L. Right forearm. Yep. Assign, press H, the right hand. This is a bit annoying because these exist out of a lot of parts. So what I usually do, I just go into top view, press Z, hold Control, and with my right mouse button just drag over, and I've selected the entire hand. And assign, press H, Z again, the solid view, the neck, assign H, the head, assign H, left humerus, assign H, L, hover over and L, left forearm, assign, press H, and again you can also use box select by pressing B and just drag over. Left hand, assign H. So if you only see the armature you've just created, you didn't miss anything. To bring everything back, you press Alt H, and there it is. Press A to deselect, press C into solid view. And now if we're going into weight paint mode, I've installed the pie menu options, but you can also go into weight paint mode over here and just select weight paint. So you see that now the groups are actually attached to. Yes, that's what I forgot to mention, is for the thing we had at the pelvises is the same for the clavicle. Just skip it because you won't need them. Regarding the organic mesh, when you lift your arm, your shoulder is deforming because the organic mesh exists out of skin, and If you look at the Mixamo model again, you see that it's not deforming, it's just rotating with the entire upper back, so you don't need to attach the clavicle to any vertex groups because it's part of the upper back. So right humerus, forearm, left, 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 the neck, femur, right shin, right foot, left, and the head. Yeah, I think we've nailed it. So now we can export it. Select the mesh, shift select the armature, go to File, Export, FBX. Select selected object, armature, shift select mesh, scale it down by 0.001 and export it. So this is the part where we'll head over to Touchdesigner and I'll see you there. So we're in Touchdesigner. As I mentioned earlier, we're not going to cover the part where we're going to set up this isolating of all the channels from the KinectChop, and also how to set up a record sequence and exporting that to a DAT file. We've covered that in our last tutorial, so I'll put a link in the description in case you've missed it, and we'll head over to importing the FBX into Touchdesigner. So just look for your file and drag it in. So there it is. So everything is nicely lined up. You've probably seen me struggle by dragging all the channels to the specific bones and do that for every rotation, the X, the Y, the Z, and it got a bit of annoying, and I didn't know if I mentioned that I'm probably going to write some kind of simple script. Well, I've actually did, and it's not that difficult. I've just made a table, just double click, go to the DAT tab and select table, and then you can search for your file, or you can just do it here in manually, but I did it in Excel and exported it to a text file. You see it over here. Make sure you use the exact names you use for the bones. So everything starts with a capital letter. So in the first column, just put in the container where the bone is. The second column, the parameter, and the third column, the channel, which one needs to attach to this parameter, and then make sure you add a fourth column where you enable the channel. So we'll go into our FBX, select everything, make sure you put it in Python because the table I wrote uses Python expressions, so we're going to copy it, delete this one, Ctrl V, and if we press this export button, everything immediately gets attached to the right channel, so that saves us a lot of time. And let's see what it actually did. Right click and view. Okay, I have to press play. And there it is. It's actually already quite nice. A couple of dislocations around the pelvis and a little bit around the shoulders. We're not going to fix this in Blender. We're going to do that in the pre-Xform tab into Touchdesigner, and we'll just eyeball it and see if we can line it up. And as you can see, the record that is already doing its job. I still can work around in Touchdesigner and the character is moving, so that's quite handy. Okay, let's see if we can fix this a little bit. I'll go to the left femur and I go into pre-Xform and switch it on. And I think we'll just start somewhere and see what happens. Okay, this is the left one. Rotate my camera a little bit. Oh, it's a bit too high. No. I think we need to tweak it in the Z a little bit more. It's starting to line up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So 0.05 for the X, minus 0.13 for the Z. Let's go to the right one. It's probably the same value. Yep. So that's not a very tough job to fix. So let's see if we can do something with the shoulders. What you also could do, but I found that the arms gets rotated in some weird angle, is you just go to the clavicle bone and just switch off the rotations. So then it gets isolated at this point. but as you can see, the arms are somehow a little bit winding. If you just could find a position where you can see it a little bit better. I'll just pause it over there. Yes, right here. You see, somehow the angle is different, because when I switch it back on, you see it's much straighter and more in line with the body. But the downside of this approach is that you have to adjust this shoulder, and it somehow moves a little bit. If you pay closely attention to it, you can spot it, but it's not that big of a deal. So we'll just try to fix it. So we'll go to the clavicle, to the pre-exform tab. That's the left one. It's probably somewhere here. No, it's already looking quite nicely. It's probably the same value. So hit play, see what happens. See if you can be picky about it, but yeah, you can spot it a little bit, because yeah, the movements are quite rough, so it gets more noticeable. But if the movements are more subtle, I think you can get away with it. So maybe the Z a little bit. Just try to switch on the camera and show you a couple of movements, more subtle movements. So I'll take my KinectChop, put it into the null. So that's me. So you see, if the movements are not that rough, it's quite steady, I think. The hips are doing a great job. It's okay. I believe it's okay. Well, I believe we're done with that, so I'll put on this one again, so I can sit down and the character is still moving. I got in contact with Jasper Brekelmans, who has a deep understanding of the Kinect and how the Kinect is working. And he was kind enough to give me a subscription to try out his software. You can go to his website at brekel.com, BRAKAL.com. He has a lot of nice tools for the Kinect where you can record a point cloud. There's also a lot of things going on around face capturing. You can export or record your movements and export it to FBX and import it in Blender or Maya or 3ds Max, whatever. But it can also send OSC messages from his tool to Touchdesigner. And so there it is. You see the joints and the movements the Kinect is picking up, and there are a lot of options over here where you can smooth the data, export it to FBX, but where I was very interested in was sending data over OSC, because what I find out was that his tool actually has a couple of joints extra, and it was quite fun to see that I actually could turn my head around. So I just use a simple OSC in protocol, isolated the specific channels I needed. So when I export, close this one for a second, the head, I think I've already did a, no I didn't. The head, I believe this was the 7, the 8 and the 9, so I'll just drag it over here. The 8, oh, the 8 and the 9. So if I open this one, somehow detached all my channels. Oh, now I have my old one back again. Okay, well, we do it again. Op. Okay, I'm going to take my KinectChop again. So you see, I'm actually able to rotate my head a little bit. It's subtle, but I think it's quite fun to see that you're now actually able to rotate your head, and it's, you know, you could move your arms and your legs, and that's already very fun, but that movement of your head makes it more personal, I guess. It makes it more human. It's you know, the channel from the KinectChop in Touchdesigner, it was quite stiff and steady, but this is more, it feels a bit more organic. So, and actually also has a channel for the foot, which one I didn't isolate it yet, but I just suggest go over to his website and check it out. You can download a trial, and you just can send him an email if you maybe he will let you use an evaluation license. It's worth checking out, and I'm going to dive into it, and maybe the program is over to derivative. Maybe they can investigate a little bit how the tool is working. So because the head rotations in Touchdesigner, I couldn't get it to work. So, and I think it makes a difference. It makes the character a bit more organic. So, well, I think we're done here. So this is how you set up a Kinect-driven Mixamo robot character. Thank you for watching. Feel free to contact us for questions, tutorial requests, and/or critiques, of course. Please support us by liking and subscribing. We've recently opened up a Patreon site for gaining access to our work files for a small donation, but we'll guarantee that the videos will stay free. We just would like to support the drive and passion of people who are willing to follow along our tutorials, because we think that the most valuable part lies within your own trial and error and the process of understanding, and not the actual finished product itself. So, to give you a little heads up, we're working on a tutorial how to set up inward kinematics in Touchdesigner, and how to UV unwrap and export your model for PBR shading, working with different UV channels and setting up animations within your shaders to make a fantastic disco robot. So stay tuned, please like and subscribe. So for now, all the best and happy Easter.